Okay, let me give you an example. This one's quite tough. So, given a function f of x equals x to the power of a third, is it an even function or is it an odd function or neither? Okay, so remember for my section on indices, we don't really understand what it means when to have a power of a fraction. So the minute we have a power of a fraction, we would immediately jump to the, in this case it would be the cube root of x here. So if you have x to the power of a seventh here, we don't really understand what it means to have a power of a fraction. So we would jump to the seventh root of this thing here. So here you have to look, you have to search for a number when you times by itself 7 times. When you times by itself 7 times, it gives you x. Okay, so overall, if you have a power of a fraction, try and visualize it as the in this case the cube root here. Okay, so now if you try and plot this function here, it will look like this. Hang on, it will look like this. The thing is, if you plot a graph of f of x equals x to the power of a third here, it will look like this. It is able to enter the negative realm. If you plot a graph of f of x equals look, if you look at this here, if you plot a graph of f of x equals x to the power of a third, it's able to enter the negative realm. But if you plot a graph of f of x equals x to the power of a half, it cannot enter the negative realm. And the reason for that is, well, if you let's look at when x equals -4. So if you put -4 into this thing here, so if you have a function f of x equals this here, if you put -4 into this x here, it would look like this. -4, okay, to the power of a half. And the minute you see to the power of a half, you would immediately visualize the square root here. Now, when you see the square root here, when you see this here, you're really searching for a number inside your mind where if you multiply it by itself, it will give you -4. So you got to search for a number when you multiply by itself, it will give you -4. Well, you could guess -2. You see, 2 times 2 will be 4, and then now taking into account the two negatives, it will give you a +4. So you cannot create the -4 that you cannot search for a number when you times by itself, it will give you a -4. Because you've got two negatives here, it will always give you a positive. But yeah, so but the thing is, when it comes to x to the power of a third, you can enter the negative realm. So let's look at x to the power of a third. Now, so here this is f of x equals x to the power of a third. Well, x to the power of a third, we could visualize as this: x to the power of a third. Okay. Now let's look at when x is -8. Okay. If you put -8 into this thing here, it would be this. It would be you trying to work out the cube root of -8. Okay. So now when you see this here, what I'm trying to explain to you is that when it comes to the cube root, you are able to enter the negative realm. But when it comes to the square root, you cannot enter the negative realm. So this is why you're able to enter the negative realm here when you have the cube root. So if you put -8 into here, when you get to this stage here, you are trying to search for a number. When you times by itself 3 times, you're able to create the -8, and it turns out to be -2. You see, you can't do it, because here you would get 2 times 2 times 2 as normal. That would give you 8, and you got 3 negatives. then that will give you a negative overall. So you are able to search, well, with with the cube root, you are timesing by the number of negatives will be an odd number, so it's able to give you a negative. Whereas if you look at the square root, you've got an even an even amount of negatives. So you're always going to end up with a positive. My point is that x to the power of a third, the function x to the power of a third will look like this. Okay. Now I'm not even going to check. Now going back to the original question, when given this function here, is it an even function or an odd function, or neither? Well, I'm not even going to check if it's an even, because looking at the graph here, if you reflect it along the y-axis, this is not going to be it's not going to be an even function, because if you reflect it, it won't be the same as the original function here. If you reflect it, it won't be the same as the original function. The original function is this function here. Okay. Now let's check if it's an odd function. So